Hello, everyone. Welcome to the World Tapping Circle. I'm so happy that you signed up for this event and that you are here with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a big deal for us. As you might have read in the post and in the email that I sent you, this is the 4th year of the World Tapping Circle. And every year we give a circle to the community. And this year we've had, over 460 people sign up for this as of a few hours ago, which is very exciting. So welcome to all you new people who are coming into Circle, watching this on replay, watching this in the video library a year from now, and all of those who are here with us live. You are here with me, Sonya, Sophia, and members of Team Love. We have Kirsten over here in the purple with the beautiful blonde in California. We have Mateo here in Austin, Texas. And we have Surya and Danny here also doing tech support. Thank you. We're really, really happy that you're all with us. Thank you for joining us. If you're new in the circle, please say hello in the chat and let us know where you're coming in from so that we can see the size and the shape of this circle. So I see Delora in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. This may be the first time, Delora, that anyone's chimed in from Mexico. Hello, Jackie in Colorado, Marco in Austin, Tom in New York City, Mandy in Iowa, Eduardo in Tucson, Carla in Austin, Marquesa in California, Celestine in Quebec. Welcome, Skylar. Welcome, Mandy. Hello, everybody. Hi, Arcana and Micah and Monica in Dallas, first time. Welcome, Ed in LA. Welcome, everybody. Really happy that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your busy life. I know you could be doing anything right now. And here we are, working on experiencing the power of pleasure. So for those of you who are new to EFT, and I hope a lot of you are, we are going to be doing a self-healing process called EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, which is short for, we call it EFT for short. And we're going to be tapping on the meridian points of our bodies and reprogramming the nervous system through the electrical circuits using the power of love and compassion and forgiveness and acceptance. Basically, we're going to put positive vibes into the neural network of our body and discharge old corrupt data that's been jamming the works, shutting us down, closing us off to our true nature. Now, for those of you who are new, I'm going to tell you that this can be an intense process. So bear with yourself if this experience is a little bit intense. And what that might look like is waves of energy moving through your body, laughing, crying, energy, tingles, any kind of burping, laughing, all kinds of heat, energy moving through your body. You're literally going to give yourself an emotional detox on the subject that we're tapping on. So be natural, let it all hang out, let yourself move naturally through this process, okay? Guys, can you check and see? There we go. Good, handled. I was just checking to see what was happening with Mateo's picture there. Okay, so your body's going to be discharging stored accumulated stress from the nervous system. And it may feel really pleasurable. It may feel a little uncomfortable. You might have all kinds of interesting semi-psychedelic experiences. I promise you that this is natural, this is normal, and your body knows how to do this given an opportunity. And all I'm going to do is talk you through this process, and you're actually going to do the healing work on yourself, which is really, really cool. Very self-empowering. And you can use EFT on any subject. We just happen to be aiming it for our fourth anniversary special on the power of pleasure. And this is kind of a rare thing. I'm usually tapping on helping people succeed and looking at their fears and looking at their anxieties and, looking at kind of, maybe you could say, the darker aspect of being alive. And this circle, we're going to be looking at the more joyous experience of being alive. Okay? So what we're going to start out with is giving you 5 minutes to drill down and look at where you want to aim this session specifically in regards to pleasure. And that means I'm going to put up a 5-minute survey, which you'll be able to click a button and go live to, or you can do a screen share and just watch it and answer these questions for yourself. It's nice to have a piece of paper to quickly jot down answers. And these answers really are not for me or for the team, they're for you. They're for you to get down into your subconscious and stir things up so that this EFT session goes down in and starts cleaning out the basement of your subconscious, which is actually running your life. Excuse me. Most of our decisions are emotionally based, whether we realize it or not. We're doing things based on the way we feel, our gut instinct, if we like someone, if we don't like someone, if we feel safe, if we don't feel safe. And a lot of what we're capable of in terms of pleasure has to do with our past. Was I safe? If I wasn't safe, even if I'm in a different situation now, I may be replaying my past experience to sort of protect myself or guide myself in the present. So what we want to do is update the nervous system so that you can make decisions around your pleasure, your boundaries, what feels good to you, what you're allowed to feel, and how good is it allowed to be. Based on who you are now, not who you were when you were 2 or who you were when you were 10 or who you were when you're 15, okay? So keeping in mind that we're working on this subject of pleasure. So the first question that the Core Causes survey is going to ask you is, what's your issue? So prepare yourself to answer that question with something around your pleasure tolerance, your pleasure threshold, something about wanting more pleasure in your life or noticing that you limit yourself when it comes to pleasure. And that may be pleasure of slowing down and being present. That might be the pleasure of being in your body or being sexually expressed. That might be the pleasure of tasting your food or taking a moment to really acknowledge the people in your life and letting their love in. Whatever that pleasure is for you that you want to enhance, this tap is going to help take you there. And remember that you'll be able to use the same link that you got into the circle on for the replay video for 7 days. So even if you aren't a normal member of the World Tapping Circle and you don't have access to the video library where all these circles are stored, you'll still be able to use this same tap again and again. So you could do it, every day or two for a week and enhance pleasure in multiple areas of your life. Okay, the pleasure of playing music, the pleasure of making art, the pleasure of making love, whatever you want to work on. All right, so thank you very much. Welcome to Circle, big, giant, gorgeous family. We're going to drop into the Core Causes questions. If you're on a mobile device, you might have to scroll down until you see the button pop up that says Get Started. Otherwise, if you're on a computer, you'll see that right now. Click the button and get started. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. All right, everyone. Good job getting the core causes questions done. I know 5 minutes is a short period of time to ask yourself such intense questions, but it really helps you to get real with yourself and see where these things are coming from. And now we're going to tap through the truth of your experience, bringing empathy and love into the nervous system and letting that empathy and love do what it does, which is neutralize pain and bring yourself into alignment with who you consciously want to be, not who you subconsciously accidentally became. Okay? So follow along with me. I'm going to do this process on me. You're going to do it on you. Now I'm going to give you some words to speak. It's going to be call and response. I want you to tap on your body where I'm tapping on my body. I'll show you where to tap. I'll call out these points. And I want you to edit the words that I'm using to refine this for your own situation. Okay? So this isn't about me telling you what to do. This is about me guiding you and you refining this so that you're more honest and clear about your own experience. And if you don't know what to say, go ahead and just say what I'm saying. It's not going to hurt you if you tap on something that isn't accurate, but it will help you if it turns out to be accurate. And you'll notice, because your body will off gas, releasing shivers and releasing feelings and fears and maybe even yawns or belches. And sometimes that might make you feel really, really sleepy, especially if this is new for you, because your brain is actually trying to protect itself from changing. Your mind is protecting itself from changing. And this is what happens when we are like, oh, I'm making a new decision. And the next day you're like, how come I can't follow through on that decision? Oh my gosh, I'm doing the same thing I decided not to do yesterday, but I'm doing it. Why is that when I consciously made a new choice? Because the mind is habituated, right? So it wants to keep you consistent and about the same as you were yesterday. So when you're making changes internally, you're going to have to be patient with yourself and accept the part of you that gets a little foggy or sleepy. And if it gets too sleepy, go ahead and stand up and get a little bit louder. And hopefully you have some privacy to be able to really get down with us in the circle. Okay, so massaging the front of your chest, I want you to feel around until you find a tender spot here. For women, it's going to be in your upper breast tissue. For men, it's going to be in your upper breast tissue and pectoral region. And give it a light massage. Press around until you find a tender spot there where it feels a little more sensitive than the surrounding tissue. Give yourself a few deep breaths. And breathing is going to be really important during the circle. So that type of breath. So it's in through the nose if you can. And a nice big exhale with a soft, relaxed, open jaw. That's going to help move more energy through your body. And here we go. So tuning into your issue around pleasure. Let yourself remember what it is and feel what it is. And now we're going to just acknowledge it. Repeating after me. Even though I have this issue around pleasure, which is, now describe it for 5 seconds. And breathe. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the eyebrows. This issue around pleasure. Tapping the temples. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the cheeks. Even if a part of me has this issue with pleasure. Tapping under the nose and above the lips. Even though part of me's been shunning or shutting down pleasure. Tapping under the lips. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Big deep breath. Tapping the chest. This part of me that's been pushing pleasure away, or, and then say what it is that you've been doing with pleasure. Maybe you feel addicted to pleasure. Tapping the bottom of the rib cage, right where your ribs stick out the most in front. This issue with pleasure. Focusing on it again. What is that for you? And tapping the side of the rib cage, nipple height, side seam of the body, tapping like this. This issue with pleasure. Focusing on it again with your mind. What are we talking about? And tapping the inside of the wrist. Even though a part of me has been what towards pleasure? Have you been ambivalent? Have you been resistant? Have you been too busy? Tap the side of the thumb. I'm open to loving and respecting myself. Tap the index finger. A part of me has decided that pleasure isn't as important as everything else I'm up to. Tap the middle finger. Tap the middle finger right here. Very good. A part of me has minimized my need for pleasure. Tune in and see if that's true for you. If you put it off, if you save it for the weekend, tap the bottom of the fourth finger, even if a part of me has minimized my need for pleasure in order to do what? Is it take care of other people or to work? Tap your little finger. I'm open to love and respect myself. Tap this side of the hand. Even though I've been neglecting my need for pleasure and fun and play, tap the top of the head. Part of me feels what towards pleasure? What's the first negative feeling that comes up when you think about pleasure? Maybe you have some positive feelings too, and those are great, those are fine. We don't need to do anything with those. But let's think about the places where we've judged it or numbed ourselves towards that basic need. Tapping the side of the head. What's the negative feeling that comes up? I know that for me, for a long time, it's been guilt. I feel guilty for feeling good and having fun and enjoying myself when there's so much suffering, when I could be doing something to take care of alleviating that suffering. Tap the eyebrows. Part of me feels what about pleasure? Go ahead and say that negative feeling again and tap the temples and breathe. Tapping the cheeks. This feeling of, say that same feeling again. Tapping under the nose. I'm open to love and respect myself. Tapping under the lips, even if I continue to judge or fear pleasure. Tapping the chest. I love and forgive myself, even if I haven't made enough time or space in my life to feel good. Tapping the bottom of the ribs again. This negative feeling of what? Is it fear or shame? Tap the sides of the ribs. I'm open to love and forgive myself, even if I've judged pleasure as trivial. Tap the inside of the wrist. Even if I've judged pleasure as shameful. Tap the side of the thumb. Even if I've judged pleasure as self-indulgent. Tap the index finger. Even if a part of me has this fear around pleasure. Tap the middle finger, tuning in and seeing if you have any fear around the energy of pleasure in your life. I know that I was taught that if I enjoyed myself, I wouldn't be spiritually pure, that I would forget about the poor, the needy, the suffering, that pleasure wasn't actually a value that my family or the people that I grew up around had. My mother denied it. My father was actually overindulgent in sexual pleasure, so it seemed dangerous and scary and like an addiction or a perversion. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. So tune in for yourself and see what happened around the topic of pleasure for you. What was the model in your family? Tap your little finger and go ahead and discuss that for 15 seconds. What did you learn growing up about pleasure from your mother and your father? Well, Mom taught me what? And tap the side of the hand. And Dad taught me what? Tapping the top of the head and breathing. Tapping the top of the head, the sides of the head, and the back of the skull. Even if this is what I inherited. Tap the eyebrows. And parts of this are still running my life. Tapping the temples. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Big, deep breath. And tap the front of your cheeks. I accept the parts of me that learned to feel and think the same way as my parents. Tapping under the nose. I accept the parts of me that learned to mimic the people that raised me. Tapping under the lips. So thinking again about who raised you and what their beliefs were or their attitudes were around pleasure. And tapping the chest. A part of me learned to condemn pleasure. Tap the front of the ribs. Tune in and see if that's true for you. And if not, say what you did learn. But I think for a lot of us, we learn to condemn it. Tap the side of the ribs. Even though a part of me may have learned to condemn or judge pleasure as what? As wrong or bad or sinful. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tap the inside of the wrist. I accept the part of me that learned to be afraid and to condemn or judge pleasure. Tapping the side of the thumb. This part of me, feeling guilty or bad or ashamed or embarrassed, that a part of me needs to open up and feel good. And tap the index finger. This resistance to feeling really good. And tap the middle finger. I'm open to loving and forgiving myself, even if I'm still feeling blocked around this topic. Big deep breath, big sigh, and tap the bottom of the fourth finger and tuning in again and just noticing the intensity of this topic for you. How scary is it? If you were to give it a number, and go ahead and put that number in the chat room if you're live with us. How scary is the topic of pleasure from 0 to 10? 0, of course, is like, it's great. This isn't an issue at all. And 10 is saying, it's maximum. Let's just get a temperature check here. Trish says it's a 7. Kirsten says 5. Carla says 4, Daniel 4, Mama Sin 7, Golden Dragon 6, Shanley 7. Okay, lots of people chiming in. It's pretty high, it looks like. Tapping the little finger. I accept the part of me that has a lot of resistance to my own pleasure. Tap the side of the hand. What were you taught? We're going to blurt it out and we're going to say this word over and over. I was taught that it was, say what that word is for you, wrong. Tap the top of the head. I was taught that it was, say it again. Tapping the sides of the head. I was taught that it was. Tapping the eyebrows. One more time with feeling. I was taught that pleasure was. And breathe. Tapping the temples. It's safe to release some of this fear from my body now. Tap the cheeks, even if it feels really scary to let it go. Tapping under the nose. Why does it feel scary to let this go? Tapping into the lips. I'm afraid that if I were to open up and let myself feel really good, tap the chest, what might happen? So you're going to laugh maybe when I tell you this, but I can tell you that my answer for years was that I would become a porn star because my dad was into porn. I don't know. It was a weird thought. I would suddenly lose my morals, my ethics, my values, and then, somehow get addicted to porn. Of course, that's never going to happen. And since I've been opening up to pleasure, that actually hasn't happened. It's actually just made me happier and more alive and more embodied. But that was my subconscious fear. So you might have a fear that just seems really bizarre when you ask yourself that question. Tap the front of the ribs. So let's ask again. If I were to open up to pleasure, what bad thing would happen? First thought, just blurt it out, no matter how ludicrous it seems. Tap the side of the ribs. We're going to do it again. Just free associate. If I were to open up to pleasure, what would happen? Don't think about it too much. Just blurt out your first thought. Like, I might go crazy. Tap the side of the inside of the wrist. This fear. Tap the side of the thumb. Part of me is secretly afraid that if I were to open up to feeling really good, what would happen? Tap the index finger. Big, deep breath. Notice what you've just realized about yourself. That a part of you thinks it's not okay. Tap the middle finger. A part of me has my foot on the brakes. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. A part of me is against my own happiness and pleasure. Tap the little finger and breathe. Tap the side of the hand. Part of me thinks I'm protecting myself, keeping myself from what? And for me, again, it was like losing my purity, my essence, my virtue. Tap the top of the head. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Even if a part of me thinks it's protecting, what is it protecting? Tapping the back of the head. Tapping the eyebrows. I love and forgive myself. Tap the temples, even if I've been secretly doing this. For how long? How long have you been secretly believing this and trying to protect yourself? Well, it might have been my whole life. Tap your cheeks. I love and forgive myself. Tapping under the nose, even if a part of me secretly believes, tapping under the lips, that what? And go ahead and blurt it out again. One of these things that you just heard yourself realize. And tapping down to your chest. I accept this part of me that thinks it's serving me, protecting me from, and say again what you think this fear is trying to prevent. Tapping the front of the rib cage. I deeply and completely accept myself. If that's too hard to say I'm open to deeply and completely accepting myself. Tap the side of the ribs, no matter how long I've been fearing my own pleasure. Tapping the inside of the wrist. Part of me secretly would like to experience what? So describe for a minute what kind of pleasure we're talking about. It could be multiple orgasms. It would be the pleasure of being intimate and present with other people. The pleasure of feeling love in my life. Tap the side of the thumb. Part of me would like to experience more what? Tap the index finger. I'm allowing myself the possibility of processing this fear, these judgments, these inherited patterns I picked up from my family. Tap the middle finger. My own resistance. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. I'm allowing myself to process this now. Tapping your little finger. No matter how old the story is or how deep it goes, tap the side of the hand. I'm allowing myself to evolve past the way I was raised and the way I was taught. Tap the top of the head into what feels right and natural for me now. Tapping the top of the head, the sides of the head, the back of the head, and breathe. Good. Let's just drop down to the chest for a second. Tuning in again, what is the primary negative thought that comes in your head when you think about saying yes to having more pleasure in your, whatever that place of your life is? Maybe it's in your genitals. Maybe it's more pleasure in just being alive, more pleasure in your creation, or more pleasure in your relationships. What is the negative thought that comes up? Part of me says it's not what? Not allowed, not possible, not nice. Tap the front of the ribs. Part of me says it's not okay. Tap the side of the ribs. I'm open to loving and expressing myself. Tap the inside of the wrist. Part of me feels embarrassed. Tune in and see if you have any embarrassment around wanting to feel really good in your body. Tap the side of the thumb. Is part of me ashamed or embarrassed about wanting to feel more yummy and juicy and alive? Okay, so just tapping and listening for a second. So when I asked myself that, I noticed that if I imagined standing on a street corner crying, I felt better and safer than if I imagined standing on a street corner feeling so amazing that my body was like wiggling and shimmering with joy, and I was crying tears of ecstasy and telling people that I was so in love with life. That feeling was much more embarrassing than me like crying or screaming or feeling angry or sad or suicidal on a street corner. I was like, wow. In our society, it's much more okay. We see an example from the people around us and in movies and television of people being upset way more than we see people actually feeling good. Tap the index finger. I accept the part of me feels embarrassed and wants to shut down my expression of joy and pleasure. Tap the middle finger. So think about what that is for you. Maybe you're talking about sexual pleasure. Maybe you want to always stifle or muffle the natural sounds that come from your body when you're feeling really turned on. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. Maybe it's having to hide the pleasure of your love from other people, that it's too much, it's too overwhelming. Tap the little finger. I'm open to loving and accepting myself, even if I've been taught to hide or stifle expressions of my pleasure. And tap the side of the hand. I love and forgive myself. The world needs more sounds and feelings and examples of pleasure. Tap the top of the head. So think about that. If we saw people naturally expressing their joy, their pleasure, not just their orgasm, but maybe their orgasm, but truthfully, I would much rather see on TV people kissing and making out and holding each other and having orgasms than gunning each other down and being sarcastic and hurting each other and trying to figure out how to steal each other's money and boyfriends and wives and seriously. Tap the eyebrows. I'm allowing myself the possibility. Tap the temples of allowing myself to feel more alive and express my own pleasure. Tap the cheeks. So everybody sigh and make a sound of pleasure. What does it sound like when your body is feeling pleasure? Hopefully you have some privacy and you feel free to make a sound. Let your body feel that. Okay, I can't hear you. Nobody else can hear you. Tapping under the nose. Let's make a pleasure sound again. Tapping under the lips. I love and accept myself. I accept the part of me that's been starving for pleasure. Tap the chest. Make another pleasure sound. Let your body moan or go and let yourself begin to feel that. It might seem strange at first. Tap the front of the ribs, but we're just going to go with it. I'm allowing myself to embody pleasure more often. Tap the side of the ribs, even if I was taught to hide it, to shut it down, to not need it. Tap the inside of the wrist. Big deep breath. Good. Tap the side of the thumb. I was taught that pleasure wasn't necessary. Tap the index finger. Tune in and see if you were taught that this just wasn't necessary. Tap the middle finger. Or that it was dirty or decadent. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. It's safe for me to release these old fears and judgments that I picked up from my culture and from my environment. Tap your little finger. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tap the side of the hand, even if I was taught that pleasure was dangerous. So Carla just put in the chat that I was taught that it was dangerous, so many single mothers in my family. And I have to say, I was also taught that it was dangerous, that if I let myself feel good and feel embodied, feel my beauty, feel my sensuality, feel my worth, feel my, my gorgeous, vitality, that I would get raped. That fragrance, that energetic fragrance would somehow waft over to the rapists and they would all come over and rape me up. Tap the top of the head and breathe. Even if I was taught that feeling pleasure was dangerous. Tap the back of the head and the sides of the head. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. And tapping the eyebrows. I accept this absolute terror, this fear, tap the temples, that it was super dangerous for me to feel good in front of anybody. Tap the cheeks, that it gave them invitation and permission. Tapping under the nose. tapping under the lips, that if I acted like I was enjoying something too much, that it was an invitation. Tap the chest. Tapping the front of the ribs. So I think a lot of women have been taught that women aren't supposed to enjoy sex, that we're supposed to not want to feel that connection as much because it somehow makes us slutty or targeted if we express the natural joy that we have of being in our bodies. Tap the top of the head. I accept the part of me that still to this day fears letting my pleasure flow. Tapping the sides of the head and the back of the head. I accept the part of me that still feels afraid that it will send the wrong message. And tapping the temples and breathing. Tapping the cheeks. Is it okay for me to feel good and have good boundaries? Tapping under the nose. Is it okay for me to feel good and know that it's not giving my consent or my power to anyone else? Tapping under the lips. That my pleasure, just like a flower, is here to enhance the world. Tap the chest. That my pleasure adds an energy of peace and well-being. Tap the front of the ribs. My pleasure adds peace and well-being to the environment. Tap the side of the ribs. My pleasure sends out a frequency that says everything's good. Tap the inside of the wrist. I want that feeling in the world more. Tune in and see. Would you like to walk around in the world where everything feels like, things are good? It feels like people are happy. The birds are singing, the bees are humming, the flowers are blooming. Of course we want that. Tap the side of the thumb. Well, people enhance or detract from the field by how they carry themselves. Not just physically how they carry themselves, but energetically and emotionally. So if you want to live in a world that feels more fragrant with that feeling of things are good and things are working and things are flowing and people are happy, then you gotta let yourself be one of the flowing, happy people, at least sometimes. Tap the index finger. I'm allowing myself the possibility of letting my body feel good. Tap the middle finger. And I'm not talking about you needing to have constant orgasms all day long. I'm talking around walking around feeling good and emanating peace and emanating joy. Maybe that translates into sexiness. Maybe that translates into feeling open and sensual, but maybe it just translates into you dancing down the street and laughing and feeling happy and swinging your hips and tossing your hair and feeling like it's a good life and you're happy to be alive. Tap the bottom of your fourth finger. I forgive myself for shutting down my pleasure and my joy, because pleasure and joy link together. So we kind of demonized pleasure, but joy is actually what comes from pleasure. Tap your little finger. I'm giving myself permission to enjoy my senses. Tap the side of the hand. My sense of smell. Tap the top of the head. My sense of taste. Tap the eyebrows. My sense of touch. Tap the temples. My sense of hearing. And tap the cheeks. My sense of well-being. Tapping into the nose. Is it okay to show my pleasure in the smallest ways? Tapping under the lips. To take time to taste my food. And to really be with it. Tap the chest. To enjoy the feeling of my own skin. So just touch your face for a second and let yourself feel, without judgment, just the texture of your cheek, as if this were someone else's face. If this were someone else's face, what would you notice immediately with that touch? I'm noticing that I have the tiniest little peach fuzz on my cheek, and then it's really smooth. It feels really good. And tap the chest. I'm giving myself permission to enjoy the body I have right now. This is the only body I have right now. Tap the front of the ribs. And I'm allowed to enjoy it while I still have it. Yeah. Tap the side of the ribs. What would it be like to enjoy my body just a little bit more? Tap the inside of the wrist. What would it be like to allow myself to relax and to feel yummier? Tap the side of the thumb. If I let myself feel a little bit yummier, what good thing might happen? Well, tap the index finger. Notice if there was any concern or worry on the heel of letting yourself imagine that. I'm giving myself permission to glow, to feel yummier. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. Even if a part of me feels nervous or anxious, tap the little finger. I accept this nervous, anxious feeling. So tune in and see if it made you feel a little bit nervous and anxious after you imagined letting yourself feel yummier. See if there was a contraction in any part of your body. Sometimes there's a contraction down in the genital area or around the anus. Sometimes there's a contraction in the belly or a holding of the breath. Tap the side of the hand. I accept any part of me that still thinks it's protecting me. Tap the top of the head. I picked up this need to protect myself from my family, especially who? Tapping the back of the head. Picking up this need to protect myself from who? Tap the eyebrows. I accept the part of me that still wants to run this pattern of self-protection that I learned when I was how old? Tap the cheeks. That I was taught by who or whose example? Tapping into the nose, and maybe you know exactly what you were taught. So what was it? Was there a moment when they were like, keep your knees together, or, don't allow yourself to visibly show that you're excited or alive? Tapping the chest. It's safe for me to release this from my body now. I've carried it long enough. Tap the front of the ribs. It's safe for me to release this conditioning from my body. I've carried this long enough. Tap the side of the ribs. It got me this far and I'm grateful. Tap the inside of the wrist, but I don't need to live the rest of my life shut down or numb or terrified. Tap the side of the thumb. Releasing this numb, shut down, terrified feeling. Tap the index finger. Giving myself permission to blossom, to open, to unfold, and to express my joy. Tap the middle finger. This joy in my body. This joy of being embodied. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. I don't have to have a perfect body to feel lit up and turned on and alive. Tap the little finger. I still have volition, sovereignty, tap the side of the hand, and healthy boundaries, even if I'm feeling gorgeous and turned on and alive. Tap the top of the head. So thinking about how the animals do it, the male and the female animals opening and expanding and showing their feathers and showing their moves and allowing themselves to sing and be heard. And feeling great. Like we love to see people turned on and alive. And that is that's why people are looking to porn, because it's a false version of people being turned on and alive. The sad thing is that people aren't really in love with each other. They're not really opening their hearts and their whole beings. They're just going through the motions. But we're all really wanting to see and be seen in feeling alive and embodied and fully expressed. Tap the cheeks. What would it be like to give myself a little more permission today? So what would that be like for you? So for me, I remember that there were years and years when I only wore gray, black, white, or gray, black, white, or brown. And as you can see, I'm wearing red, and this is a really fun, vibrant, alive, life-enhancing color for me. So look at your own wardrobe. Do you have bright colors in it where you're like, here I am, like a flower. I'm a live world. Or do you hide? Do you often wear black or neutral tones and you want to blend in? What's another way that you can enhance your ability to let yourself become more alive? Maybe it's learning to pleasure your body. Maybe it's learning how to be with your body, to see what feels good, or to give your body a voice. Tapping the front of the ribs, and I'm not talking just about a sexual voice, but an actual voice of what would bring more pleasure into your life right now. Tap the side of the ribs. So let's ask ourselves that question. What's one thing that would give me more pleasure in my life right now? It could be something as simple as not wearing a bra that pinches you, or getting a new brand of underwear that doesn't crawl up your butt all the time. Maybe it's giving yourself more exercise. I know that when I exercise, I feel very powerful. I've got a lot of pleasure in my body. Maybe it's making love or masturbating and letting that energy come into your genitals more often. Tapping the side of the thumb. One thing that would bring me more pleasure is, go ahead and say it. Tap the index finger. What would it be like to give myself permission to do this for myself? Tap the middle finger. What would it be like to give myself permission to, and then say what it is that you know would feel good, but might still feel a little edgy for you. Tap the bottom of the fourth finger. I love and respect myself. I'm giving myself permission to move forward gently at my own pace into this new place of pleasure. Tap the little finger, which might include what? Tap the side of the hand. What would it be like to give myself permission to do this? Tapping the top of the head. Say what it is that you're wanting to create. You know what's going to bring you more pleasure. We're just tapping on the resistance of letting yourself go for it. Tapping the back of the head, this remaining resistance. Tapping the eyebrows, this remaining resistance to doing what? Tapping the temples. Because if I gave myself permission to really have this, what might happen? What terrible thing might happen? Tapping into the nose. Part of me is trying to protect myself from that. Tapping under the lips. Let's do a reality check. Are you really going to lose it? Are you really going to forget who you are? Are you really going to suddenly get in trouble for wearing a brighter color, or for, as someone said, dancing, or getting rid of a lot of their material stuff and lightening up? Or is this a limiting belief left over from your past, or something that you just picked up and made yours? Tap the front of the ribs. You get to decide. Do I want to live my whole life compressed under these weird laws and rules that I picked up when I wasn't even paying attention? Tap the side of the ribs. Oh no, I know you don't. That's why we're here, right? Big deep breath. Inside of the wrist. Giving myself the ability to open up fields of pleasure for myself. What are 3 areas? So we're going big. Tap the side of the thumb. 3 areas I'd like to have more pleasure in. 1. What is it? Tap your index finger. 2. What else? 3. Tapping your middle finger. What else? Beautiful. Tapping the bottom of the 4th finger. I'm allowing myself this deep pleasure. Tapping your little finger and breathing as I make sure my phone stops ringing. Tap the side of the hand. I'm allowing myself the ability to have this pleasure. No matter how long I've held back in all these areas. This is my life. This is the last bit of time I have left. Big deep breath. Tapping the top of the head. Giving myself permission to expand all of these areas gently and naturally. Beautiful. Here we go. Tapping the eyebrows. So notice how you're feeling now about your original issue. Tapping your temples. Tapping the cheeks, giving myself permission to enjoy what more? Tapping into the nose. This balances out all the work, tapping under the lips, all the suffering. Tap the chest. All those hard times. Tap the front of the ribs. The pleasure is the antidote that balances my life. Tap the side of the ribs. And I deserve to feel good and to share that yummy feeling with other people. So think about it for a minute. Do you love to see people happy? Do you love to see people laughing, dancing, enjoying? Do you love to see women walking down the street feeling beautiful, carrying themselves in a, I love my life and I feel yummy in this body kind of way? I do. That makes my heart sing. So again, if you want to see that in your world, are you willing to be that in your world? Are you ready to be the first person on the dance floor? Say like, come on, follow me, we're doing this. Let's go. We're going to enjoy ourselves today. And even if I'm grumpy, I'm going to carry myself with love and beauty until I'm not grumpy anymore. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, that's exciting for me because I want more of us in the world to really feel good. This is our world. We get to decide what's popular and trendy and cool and sexy. And I can tell you that kind of the death culture is not doing it for me. I'm not into the vampires and the zombies and all the sad, depression, sarcastic, weird, pain scream stuff. What we want to see more of is our loving hearts, our embracing, our feeling yummy and yes, this is our life. These are our bodies. Enjoying ourselves, enjoying each other. So, I want you to tune in for a second. Let's go back to the original issue that you brought to Circle. How are you feeling now in regards to what you've been tapping on? And you can put it in the chat. I was a 10, maybe now I'm a 2. Check in and see where you're at according to the emotional charge. And reminding you, again, like I said at the beginning of the circle, you can get back in and do this exact same circle in a couple of hours. This link will lead you back to this very same video. You can do it again and again. Oh, wow. Eduardo says a 9 to a 0. Ashley's dropped several points. Trisha says from a 7 to a 2. Dan went to a 7 to a 4. Daniel says 4 to 1. Rida says 10 to an 8, but that was still a huge shift for me. Ambi was a 5, now a 1. Zara Grace a 12, down to a 5. Golden Dragon says a 9 to a 4, feeling electric. Marquesa a 10 to a 3. Megan a 10 to a 5. Bethany says I was full on totally numb and now I'm just exhilarated. How amazing is this? So you took an hour of your time. You brought yourself back to life. I want to invite you all to join our circle and keep this beautiful fragrance of love and passion and coming to life, flowing in your life. It's very quick, it's very easy, and obviously you can see that it works. For our anniversary special, we are giving a discount for the year membership. We're dropping it, I think it's $75 down from the normal price. And we're dropping the monthly membership down too. So, Surya, please go ahead and put that button up. I want to see you in the circle. I want the circle to grow and grow. I put so much love and energy and time to help you all feel better. And I'll tell you what, it makes me feel better. I'm not just sitting at home wishing the world would change. I'm actually doing my part to make it a better place. You showing up for you helps me know that I'm doing something good and I have a reason to get all dressed up and put flowers in my hair and hang out with you. And it makes me feel better too. So we hold hands in this circle, we hold hearts in this circle, and we move it together. Our fears, our feelings, our traumas, they're not really unique even if they are, special to us. This is the story of the world. This is the story of the human history. And we're cleaning it up inside of our own bodies and then bringing that out into the streets, into our jobs, into our relationships, into our school systems, into our lives. So thank you for doing your part to contribute to the healing of humanity by giving yourself some deep, good old-fashioned love. I encourage you to join our circle and show up for yourself every week, knowing that you have hundreds of taps in the video library because we've been doing this for 4 years and it's super exciting. It's blowing my mind that we've kept this going for all this time. So thank you, Kirsten. You've been here from the very beginning. It's so good to see you again. Thank you, Surya and Danny, for doing all that you do day in and day out to keep this circle alive. Thank you, Mateo, for supporting me and supporting this whole team, being such a powerful man in the world. I love you all, and thank you for taking the time to tap with us. I'll see you in the circle. Jump in and get that discount. go ahead and send that same link to other people too. If you've got friends who are suffering or family members who need extra love and attention, this is a great way for us all to move it together and still feel private and have our, our dignity of processing in private and then just coming out feeling more fabulous. All right, loves, thank you again for your time and attention, and I look forward to seeing you in the circle next week.